Look, we're losing. Oh god, they're all dying. Oh no, they're all dying. Yeah, we're losing all of them, even though we have the port. That's insane. We just lost like our entire army. Crap. The Canadians are well known in the World Wars for their ferocity on the battlefield, but at the same time, the nation met with a lot of resistance to participating in Europe's wars. Canada would ultimately fight in both World Wars on account of their connection to Britain and loyalty to the Crown. That being said, the aspirations of the Canadian people go beyond sheepish obedience. In World War II, we Canadians lost about 45,000 brave souls, and in return for that sacrifice, Canada received little more than a thank you. Hearts of Iron 4 allows us to take this humble dominion, put her on the path to autonomy, but more than that, we can give Canada a seat at the table, where she can negotiate peace on her terms. Of course, that's thinking ahead a little bit. At first, Canada's got some problems at home, or perhaps more aptly put, some problems. I want to add here that most of my viewers are not Hearts of Iron 4 regulars, so for that reason, this video will go into surprising detail about how exactly Hoi 4 works. Not in the sense that I'm making a guide, but in the sense that I'll be talking through my process quite a bit compared to what you might be used to if you watch other Hoi 4 content creators. This is intended to be a service to my regular viewers who might otherwise be confused, but if you're a veteran player, it can also be a window into the mind of a noob. I hope you enjoy our quest to put Canada on the map. So this is Hearts of Iron 4, which is a game that I have not really played very much of. Definitely not on the channel, that's for sure. But sometimes I get in the mood for a little World War II action, and today I'm going to play as Canada. Now, why Canada? I think they're probably one of the most noob-friendly countries in the game on account of they just don't really do a lot. That means that whether you do poorly or you do well, you're not really going to change the game a whole lot. That being said, you can do a lot of good for the Allies, which is what I'm going to do in this run. We're going to see if we can, as the Dominion of Canada, achieve our freedom and basically carry World War II. I'm not sure what exactly that means in terms of what it should look like, but I want to maybe do a little Amtrak build and conquer Italy, conquer Germany, see if we can make some cursed borders and call it a fun video. Let's get into it. Historical focuses will be on because I don't want to have too chaotic of a game, and we'll go Iron Man because it's a video, I guess. So before we even get too deep into the game here, I just want to say that I don't know a whole lot about like the meta or anything in Hoi 4, so I'm just going to kind of play according to what feels kind of fun. With Canada, I like to do either amphibious tanks or medium tanks. I'm thinking for this run we do the medium tanks because amphibious tanks feels like you don't really need it when the AI isn't very competent. For focuses, I like to start with strengthening the Commonwealth ties and go for the Montreal Laboratory collaboration because that way I can get better research. Again, no idea if that's meta or not, that's just kind of how I like to do it. After I do some of these early focuses, I'm going to go focus in on crown corporations and all this stuff on the left side of the tree. And then of course, as world tension gets higher, we can start going down the focuses that get rid of the Great Depression modifier, which is of course very, very deadly. For buildings, I'm going to start with civs, very simple. For research, we're going for the classic research speed, industry, and construction. We start off with 5 military factories, and we have 1 on guns. I'm going to put 1 on support equipment, because we're going to need that later. I'm going to put 1 on trucks, because we're going to need that later. I'm going to put 1 on towed artillery, because we're going to need that, of course. And for the last one, I guess we can put 1 on like trains. We're probably not really going to need them, but we'll just do this for a little while and stock up a few in case we ever do need them. Of course, for the dockyard, we're just going to make convoys. I don't really plan to do much of anything with the Navy, so just some dockyards. Just some convoys, rather. Now we speed 5 and unpause. This is most of what you do as Canada, is wait. So that's lots of fun. I find that as Canada, you're going to have a lot of resource shortages, but to be frank, it's better just to have these than to spend civilian factories and importing like 1 tungsten or something, because we don't really care that much about the negative to our production that we're getting. You know, I find that in Hoi 4, a game which I play probably the least of all the Paradox games, I particularly enjoy just like thinking of builds and then trying them out, even if they're really terrible. I'm trying for something that's actually kind of effective in this run, but I really love doing strange things and just pairing things together that don't make any sense. To me, that's probably the most fun of Hearts of Iron 4. I think people often think of other games like Victoria 3 or EU4 as kind of being spreadsheet simulators, but to me, Hearts of Iron really is like the spreadsheet simulator. I mean, just look at this, right? Look at all these numbers, a lot to think about. To me, that can be kind of fun at times, although usually I find it to be more disorienting than fun. But on occasion, I'm interested. I'm going to spend my first bit of political power on getting a chief of army because I'm going to be doing a lot of division editing, so I'm going to want the army experience. We'll get the attack guy because attack is good. We got our Montreal Laboratory collaboration, so our technology sharing is going to be a little better. Now I'm going to go over here and go to crown corporations. We really want to get down to $1 a year men before we appoint any of our political advisors, because this gives us a 33% reduction in cost. We're getting basic machine tools. I think I'm just going to go for Dispersed Industry 1. I haven't really thought about why Dispersed is better. I've just heard that it is better, so I always pick it. If you want to leave a comment explaining, go ahead, by the way. As far as the game's pretty quiet, so I'm actually going to pump up the audio a little bit. I'm used to playing the game with pretty low audio, because I tend to like have videos on in the background and stuff while I play, but let's put the audio up a little bit. There you go, look at that. Did you just get jump scared by that? I sure hope so. Under Crown Corporations, let's go for the Rowell Sirois Commission. This just gives us some political power, but more importantly, it gives us access to the National Housing Act, which gives us stability and also a civilian factory, and then the $1 a year men. This will let us get cheaper political advisors, and it also unlocks maritime colonial railways after we get Canadian Pacific Railway. Where Canada really pumps up its power is after you get Defensive Canada regulations and then go for Wartime Prices and Trade Board, into Canada Wheat Board and all that kind of stuff. You get your research slot after that as well, but it requires 20% world attention, so we have to wait for a bit. So we've done a lot of industry and just kind of basic technology to start, but I kind of want to start working on our actual build. We can't quite get mediums yet. We could work on amphibious tanks, but like I said, I think I'm just going to go for regular mediums and not do amphibious tanks. So instead, let's work on our artillery, which is going to be an important part of our build. I'm thinking something like medium tanks supported by motorized infantry and motorized artillery, alongside maybe some flame tank support companies. Sounds kind of fun. Whenever I do flame tanks, I always like to imagine that a lot of war crimes are happening. I know that they don't have to be used for war crimes, but have you ever played L.A. Noire? And you know when Cole gets the memories of being in the Pacific and flaming Japs or whatever. Is that a slur? I'm sorry. But yeah, you know when he gets the flashbacks to his time in Japan? I like to think that that's what the flame tanks are doing. I'm not messed up in the head. You are. There's the next focus. Let's go ahead and grab the National Housing Act now. We don't have much war support, so I can't get onto early mobilization, but maybe those will tick up pretty soon. Is there anything we can click to get us some more support? I don't think so. What I think I will do is I'm going to give refuge to scientists. Again, no clue if this is meta. This is just, I want research speed, so we're going to do it. Stability is nice to have, but research speed is kind of nice too, though. Anyway, for a new tech, I guess we can just grab some anti-air. We're not going to use a lot of anti-air, but we're going to probably use anti-air support companies, so we'll want like at least a couple of these. We're going to spend political power on the industrial concern. We're going to do a lot of industrial research, so this could be kind of useful. Speaking of industrial, there's Dispersed Industry. I think next up, construction too. That'll help. Part of me wanted to do ahistorical focuses, but I think that for my first Hearts of Iron 4 YouTube video, I'd rather not get too crazy. Let's keep it a little bit simple. Let's keep it a little bit on track. You know what I mean? $1 a year men. Here it is. We're going to grab Canadian Pacific Railway. And also using our new discount on political advisors, we can grab, I think, C.D. Howe to start. Only 33 political power to get a guy that gives extra civilian factory construction speed. Very cool. It'd be kind of cool if I could send some volunteers to Spain, just to have something to do. But to be honest with you, I don't really have any troops that I really want to send. Usually with volunteers, you kind of send like your elites to train them up, but it's not really anything I have that's worth sending right now. New tech, by the way, and I think we'll use it on getting early 1938 mediums. Later on, we'll take a focus that'll give us a bonus to researching armor, and you can maybe use that to skip to like 1943 mediums. Because I can do this research, and then maybe like a year later grab the 1940 a little bit early, and then fast research for 1943. One thing I do want to get is the better landing craft, but it's a bit of a ways away. It's a bit too far ahead, so let's not do that yet. Instead, I'm going to get the first level of, I think, armor. We're going to be a little bit speedy on our mediums. We're not going to be too speedy, so I'm not going to worry about the engine too much. We're going to be worried about the armor. For our Mayos, I'm just going to take all the ones they give production, because I kind of don't really care about like the tiny bonuses they can give, but having more artillery is kind of nice, so happy to have that. Speaking of which, we're stockpiling a pretty good amount of artillery, trucks, and support equipment, but we're missing guns. I suspect that that won't really be a problem, because we're going to eventually make a whole lot more guns. I'd rather build up the artillery for now, because once we actually add artillery to the army, we're going to need a lot of it. There's the Canadian Pacific Railway. Might as well just grab the Maritime Colonial Railway now, I suppose. We're still not 20% world tension, so we can't get the Defensive Canada regulations. We'll get there when we get there. It is tempting to try and rush for the Canadian Citizenship Act. And in fact, I think I might go for that. What's better, 2 civs or getting autonomy and research speed? I think I'm going to go with the 2 civs first. I feel like 2 civs is pretty important. We can appoint some more political advisors, by the way. I've kind of been being a little bit lazy. I think I'm going to grab the Silent Workhorse because we're early in the game, so this guy's going to pay for himself pretty fast. And then after that, we'll probably grab the Popular Figurehead. China's United Front is here, and the US Congress passes neutrality, of course. This is obviously on historical, so everything here is to be expected. If you've played the game like at all in the past, you already know what's coming. For research, we're going to grab Dispersed Industry 2. I suppose what I can do to help pass the time while we kind of wait around for the war to begin, quote unquote, is talk a little bit about the game for people who maybe haven't actually played Hearts of Iron 4. I haven't played it a ton, only a couple hundred hours, which is, of course, in Paradox terms, very little. But this game is basically about two phases. You have the phase where you build up whatever it is you're going to need for the war, and then the phase where the war begins. The first phase is kind of boring, to be honest, in the sense that it's fun to think about and it's fun to plan around, but it's not actually that fun to, like, play through. It's not like you're really doing a whole lot. You're more or less picking, like, what you want to specialize in, what you want to build, and all that kind of stuff. Then the actual war part of the game begins, and that's where you start drawing lines on the map and you direct your units to go places and all that kind of stuff. That's the part that most people are hyped up about. Anyway, we're going to do shadow factories for 3 military factories. Civilian factories are used to actually build stuff, which we see here is all the stuff we can build. Military factories are used to make weapons and other tools of war, such as trains for civilians, an important piece of the war effort. I say it like as a joke, but actually logistics is really important, so yes, trains do matter. Anyway, we're gonna grab Léo Richer La Flèche now. I wonder who that is, and whenever I see people in this game, I always want to Google them, especially because I am Canadian, so I want to know who these people are. Who is Leo, or rather Léo, because he got the accent aigu on the E. Léo Richer La Flèche. He was a Canadian general, civil servant, diplomat, and politician. He was born in Concordia, Kansas. He's an American. Seems like the war in China is indeed escalating. Japan going for it. In most of the games that I've played, Japan tends to, like, kind of flounder in China, but on occasion I've seen them actually win. Very, very rarely, but every once in a while. We almost got our shadow factories coming up, although we do have some more industry to put down first. I think I'm going to grab the excavation 1. So it's not that we actually produce a ton of resources right now, but we get decisions as Canada to expand various mines and stuff. We get those as we do our focuses, so it's going to be important to get extraction technology to be able to actually get stuff out of our country. There's our shadow factories. Now we're going to go for, I guess, the plan. I don't really care for either of these modifiers, because decryption speed I don't care about. The plan gives us some air support stuff, but I don't care about air in this case. So I'm just doing these to get through, to get to supply the Empire into Canadian Citizenship Act. We're going to put all the current factories on guns, because again, that's our biggest deficit. The way these numbers work, for those that haven't played, is that if you see the green warehouse, that means it's being stockpiled. If you see the red cross and the circle around it, it means that those are a deficit that you're reinforcing. So if we were to look at some of our units, for example, these guys, you see these orangey bars? This is like how much equipment and manpower they have. Whenever they're missing equipment and manpower, they fight at only a certain percentage of their stats. So if we were to look at, for example, a district militia, we see that its stats look like this. So don't worry about what all these numbers mean, but if they're missing equipment, then they fight at a percentage of all of these stats. Maybe not all of them. This is where I don't actually know a ton about the game, so correct me if I'm wrong. They'll use a percentage of at least some of these stats only when they fight. If they ever hit 0 equipment and 0 manpower, then they get destroyed, so they just disappear. This one, for example, has 70% fighting strength, so it'll only fight with 70% of its stats. We can change our economic law. The way this works is that of all the civilian factories that you have, only some of them can actually be used by you. The rest go towards consumer goods, which is like, you know, toasters, I guess, according to Hoi 4. When we change economic law, we're basically mobilizing the country so that we can use more of our industry on war stuff. In this case, we're going to go from having a pretty hefty construction speed penalty to all of our factories to having only a minor construction speed penalty, as well as being able to contribute 5% more of our factories to things other than consumer goods. We're almost done the plan, although I don't really care for its modifiers. France and Britain announced an alliance, and I'm going to get Camp X. I'm thinking about if I even want to do an intelligence agency. I probably will, but not right now, because that's a lot of factories to spend. We have basically the way this works. You spend 5 consumer factories in order to get an agency, and that's a bit expensive, so I don't want to. For tech, I'm thinking we can get the next infantry equipment. We're a little bit ahead of time, but not by much, so we'll just get that. Even though we're planning a tank build, infantry are kind of always part of the equation, because infantry are like your main front line, so we're going to want to have infantry equipment no matter what build we're doing. Thinking to grab a military high command guy, and these are dudes that give bonuses to various parts of your army. I'm going to grab the armor guy, because like I said, we're going for a tank build, so the armor guy sounds pretty good, right? You can actually customize these in a way by taking generals from your units. So this is kind of getting complicated, but you can show your field commanders, and then you can promote people. And these guys will become generals, and then you can train them up to eventually take on new roles. So for example, Bert Hofmeister here, we can make him an officer corps role if he had the right traits for it. He doesn't have any traits, so we can't do it, but let's say I wanted to get, like, you know, a concealment specialist. then I have to get this guy to have certain traits. I don't know what they are. I don't know how the system really works all that well. But basically, you can take these if they get certain traits. Looks like it needs Camouflage Expert. To get Camouflage Expert, we would need... Where even is it? Here. So first he'd have to have Commando. And I think this... Yeah, he gets this while fighting in certain temperatures. And while doing paradrops and naval penalties. And then you can get Camouflage Expert. Looks like you just click this so you can pick it manually. But yeah. This game is actually, honestly, like, really, really in-depth. But you don't see a lot of the depth because you don't focus on it per se. But there's a lot of interesting stuff going on with it, to be honest. Sometimes I underrate Hoi 4. It's more than just like a frontline simulator. But also, Victoria 3 and CK3, my eternal love. Anyway, we just unlocked a relatively good medium tank chassis, so I'm going to design a tank. Again, spreadsheet simulator. I swear to God, Victoria 3 is not a spreadsheet simulator. This game truly is. We can design a whole lot about this tank. I don't know what I'm doing, so I just do this and just look at what changes and then try to make something that sounds kind of good. As a quick overview, soft attack is good against infantry, or rather units with low hardness is the best way to put it. Hard attack is good against units with high hardness, and then the rest of it I don't really pay attention to. I'm going to put a small cannon on here because the heavy machine gun kind of sucks, and the autocannon is a bit too... Well, actually, the autocannon is kind of sick, isn't it? I guess it's more production is the problem. There's a lot of numbers to look at, okay? There's a lot of numbers to look at. We'll go with the automatic cannon. We can go quality tanks here. I'm going to put a radio in there. Radio gives defense. I don't really know why. We can throw in some wet ammunition storage. That sounds good. And then let's not make this thing too costly. We see that everything we add is going to add production cost, which means it's harder and harder to build. I'm going to grab the Christie suspension for the extra speed. For the armor, I kind of want to grab the cast armor. Although, that's, I mean, a little bit more hardness. We don't really need it, though, to be honest. I think we can stick with riveted. Welded would be cool, but you see, welded's going to cost us chromium. You see that resource down there? If I click it, it's going to cost us chromium. We don't have any, so that's going to really suck for us. Only places like in Europe have chromium, or I don't know if maybe some places in North America do, but basically this resource is hard to come by, is the point. So we're going to stick with riveted armor. For the engine, we're just going to stick with gasoline. The diesel engine is more reliable, but it's slower, but we don't want to lose too much speed. I'm not planning to be like a blitzkrieg here, but we don't want to lose too much. The electric engine is, I think, what even is the point of this thing? I guess it uses less fuel, is the idea? No. I don't know what the point of this thing is. Oh, it gives defense. Okay. So it makes your tank a little bit bulkier, but it's really unreliable. Minus 50% reliability is kind of insane. We got the gasoline engine, and let's put some armor on this thing. Not too much armor. We want to keep our reliability a bit higher, so maybe we put, like... We already have, what, ammunition storage? Okay, in that case, how about we just drop some of the armor? As a general rule, I try to be at, like, 80%. 79.9 is good enough, I guess. Maybe we can be a little foolhardy and go 76. We'll go a little risky. This is going to be our Crusader LP. I don't know if that's probably named after a real-life tank, but let's save it, and now we can start building it. Now we're making our first couple of tanks. We're making one per week. The longer you keep factories on making one thing, the more efficient they get, as you can see here. So basically, right now we're working at a 20% efficiency rate, but every day that we stay focused on the tank, the more the efficiency increases. Alright, so new focus is we're going to go over Supply the Empire. This is like actually a pretty good research because it gives you bonuses to researching excavation, which we're going to need. But the big reason we're getting it is to get to the next focus of Canadian citizenship. In terms of like the lore of Canada and World War II, by the way, the big political issue at this time for Canada is the conscription. Because a lot of Canadians probably didn't really want to go to war, and they also kind of felt like it was, you know, Europe's war. But that being said, Canada was a lot more willing to get into war than the United States was at the time, purely because Canada still saw itself, and indeed still was very much so, a dominion of Great Britain. In the scope of Hoi 4, you can very easily break free from Britain and become a totally free nation, but that actually wouldn't happen in Canada until, I want to say, like, the 80s is when we got our constitution. Let me just Google it real quick, the Canadian Constitution Act. That was in 1982 was when we got our constitution, so we were a dominion up until then, by the way, which means that this game kind of allows you to break free a little too easily. To be fair, the way that you break free is by contributing to the war, because the way that you gain autonomy is through various means, but one of them, where can I even check? Here it is, yeah. There's various ways to gain it, but one of the best ones is to contribute war score. And if you're playing a much more active role in World War II than real-life Canada played, then you can get free pretty easily. In real life, Canada did participate, and in fact, they were the leading on one of the Normandy beaches during D-Day, but we're going to be doing a whole lot more than just one beach at Normandy. We're going to grab the next artillery a little bit ahead of time, just because I can. It's a pretty good upgrade, so we'll take it. For our next research, I'm thinking maybe we get the truck. So Canada does have a focus to get the truck for way less research time, but I don't really intend to go down that part of the focus tree for a while, so I'd rather just get it now. You see it's right here, the CMP truck. I just don't plan to do army modernization for a little while, so it's fine. Anyway, speaking of focuses, here's the Canadian Citizenship Act. This will start giving us passive autonomy gain, which is good for us. It also gives us recruitable population and research speed, a very powerful modifier overall. I'm going to grab the next computing machine as part of our research. This just gives you more research speed. I often wonder like how worthwhile this is. 5% research speed for 218 days of research. Remember, that's like almost a whole year. I mean, it's like 2/3 of a year, more or less. That's a long time to spend, but it's probably worth it. I see all the big Hoi 4 YouTubers getting these research things, so it's probably worthwhile. Now that we've got quite a bit of a stockpile of guns here, I'm actually going to take some factories off of guns and put them on tanks instead. I think that we're going to need a lot more tanks in the near future, so we're going to really focus on that. I'm going to grab another high command guy. We're going to grab the artillery dude, because I intend to use quite a bit of artillery in the army as well, so that'll be nice. I'm looking forward to actually designing our first tank unit, but for now, I'm waiting a little bit to do it because I first want to unlock a couple more things before actually making the unit. Ultimately, there's no reason to wait, because you spend army experience on customizing your units, basically, and we could just swap this over to medium tanks, for example, and that would cost us points. We could do it in piecemeal and just do it kind of slowly, or we could do it all at once. I don't know why, I find it more satisfying to do it all at once. So once I have everything I want for my unit, then I go and actually make the units. We definitely at least need the Austin K5, because this unlocked motorized infantry. We need motorized infantry to make our tanks work, because if they don't have any infantry with them, they're going to be pretty useless. But if you give them foot infantry, then they're going to move really slowly, because every Hoi 4 unit moves at the pace of the slowest battalion within the army. Also, the Newfoundland Act. This lets us get Newfoundland from the United Kingdom. I've never seen them reject this before, so I'm hoping they'll just give it to us. There's not really anything of value there. Sorry, Newfies. There is in real life, just not in game, I guess. But, you know, it's extra population, I guess. Not very much of it, but some of it. It's more about the vibes. It's more about keeping a united Canada. That's what it's more about. We can grab radio propaganda here, and this is actually pretty good because it's going to give us war support. By getting above 25% war support, we can swap over to the partial mobilization law once we get enough political power to do so. Again, this is really important, getting your mobilization up. It's just that it's difficult to do as countries like Canada where the war support is so low. In a country like Germany, where war support is very high, we should be able to see that. I don't actually know if I can see their laws. I guess I can't, but trust me, they're probably on like war economy. That's usually what they're at because they're so enthusiastic for war. Speaking of war, there is a justification happening against us. The German Reich is justifying against us. I believe this is them trying to take the Czechoslovakia, like the Sudetenland, because that counts as them justifying on us, because Czechoslovakia is guaranteed by France, who I believe is in the Allies. And so I'm in the Allies, meaning that they're fabricating, I say fabricating like it's EU4, they're justifying on someone who is going to end up calling us into war. However, the Czechs will, as we know from history, just be thrown to the wolves, so we don't have to worry about war starting yet. We still have another year or so until war starts. War starting is actually very good for us because it unlocks a lot of our focuses. We can't really do a whole lot until the war starts. Anyway, we unlock the truck now. This is quite good because it gives us access to more support companies. One of them that I think is important for Canada is the field hospital, and that's because this makes it so that you don't take as many permanent casualties in war. We don't have very much manpower, as you can see. And that means that we really need to keep all the men alive that we can. There's the Newfoundland Act. For whatever reason, it takes the AI like a week or perhaps even more to actually reply to you about the Newfoundland Act, so give it a bit, but we will get Newfoundland. You know, they're thinking about it. The king is considering giving up Newfoundland, and there, he gives it up. That's great. So now we get some stability from that, and we get control over Newfoundland. We also got political power off that, and we're going to use that to partially mobilize. Speaking of which, we need to actually build more stuff. I'm going to start building some land warfare facilities. These were added as part of the Gotterdammerung DLC, I think that's how you say it. And they are cool little buildings that let you put scientists in them who will unlock special cool technologies, one of which is going to be, in fact, the flame tank, which I really want to use. I just love shooting fire from a tank, and I believe my love for that has come from Command & Conquer, where the flame tank units were really, really, really cool. If you know, you know. Now that we have a pretty healthy number of civilian factories, by the way, I am more willing to import goods. We're going to import a little bit of steel from the United States because they're right next to us, and whenever you import a good, the civilian factory that you're using to import, you see here we're spending 1 on traded goods, that factory is actually given to the person you're trading from. So if you're going to trade with someone, make sure it's with someone who you're okay with getting a little bit of boost of industry from it. For example, we wouldn't want to trade with the Germans right now because we're going to be fighting them later. So any trade that we give them is going to actively help them fight us later on. We're going to also import some tungsten from the United States because, again, they're a trustworthy ally, at least at this point in history. Perhaps not so much in the modern day. Defense of Canada regulations, basically censorship, but it's for war, so it's fine. We're going to do the National Resources Mobilization Act for some more recruitable population and some factory output. I don't really care for the modifier that much, but it gets us access to the research slot, which is really important. I clicked through it because I was doing my Mayos, but we got the Munich Agreement, which is where the Sudetenland just gets handed over to Germany for basically no reason. And then you get Neville Chamberlain declaring that peace in our times has come. Boy, was he wrong. Very sad. I think we can start training up our first tank unit because we have a couple of tanks and we have a couple of trucks. Let's go into the division designer and let's make a division. This to me is like the most fun part of the game, to be quite frank. Let's go ahead and drop in some medium tanks instead of light tanks, because we don't actually have any light tanks. And let's swap these out with some mobile battalions, motorized infantry. I'm not super good at building units, but there's a couple of ideas that I know. First, organization is important, and that's why you have to put infantry, because infantry gives you organization, as you can see. This is basically like morale, I guess you could say, if you want to compare it to something like EU4 or CK3. This is like your morale. You see, if we add tanks, it gets lower. Now, why, I don't know. I don't know like why tanks can't have morale, but infantry do. That's not something I understand, but that's fine. There's soft attack and hard attack. Soft attack is good against things that aren't tanks. Hard attack is good against things that are tanks. From what I understand, the AI tends to use a lot of infantry, so soft attack is kind of king in single player. So we're going to add some motorized artillery because artillery is really good with soft attack. And then we kind of want some more infantry because the organization's kind of low, so add a little bit more. And the reason why you don't necessarily want to just fill this up completely is because of the combat width. I don't totally understand combat width, to be honest, but basically it's like how many units can fit in a battle. Basically, you just don't want to go over like a certain number. I think 40 is what you don't want to go over. But there's like certain numbers you want to reach. Look, man, you can go watch like a Bitter Steel video if you want like a proper guide, I guess. I'm going to go to 30. That sounds like a nice number. So here's my division. Let's add some support companies. These are kind of like little bonuses where they don't give extra combat width and they don't tend to take away very much organization, although they do take away a little bit, but they give you some nice bonuses. We're going to give some support artillery. We're going to add a maintenance company for some extra reliability on our armor. We're going to add some support anti-air maybe, although I don't know if we're going to really need that. I don't think we need the engineer company either because you don't have any leg infantry. Motorized recon company? I guess recon's kind of nice, right? It gives you these bonuses. You'll see here it gives you some movement bonuses. That could be kind of nice. So how about we grab that? And then I kind of wanted to add field hospitals, but I don't have them yet, but that's okay. We're going to save this. Costs us 120 Army Tradition. This is not EU4. Army Experience. I'm so sorry. I don't play this game enough to know all the terms top of my head. We're going to save that, and then we're going to train one up. So we're going to train up our Armored Division. Let's give it a name. Let's give it a cool name. Let's call it, like, Canadian Bacon. I don't know. That's really dumb. Let's call it that. And then we can set it to spawn, I guess, in Ottawa, because that sounds like a nice spot. Here we can see how much equipment it has. So we see that all we're missing are medium tanks. If it's green, you're full. If it's not green, it means you're not quite full yet. So as I suspected, we need a lot more tanks. We aren't producing nearly enough. So we'll work on that slowly but surely. Everything else we're good on though. And we're going to produce just one of it, and then we're going to add a unit to make it in parallel. Maybe we'll do 3 to start. You can see here that we're just missing tanks. This over here is how much they've trained. This basically just means how long they need before they can actually go to the field. You can deploy them early once they've trained a certain amount, but then they'll come out with less experience. Experience is shown here. These guys are trained, so they have no bonuses, but if you deploy them early, they'll be green, which gives them a big negative to their fighting capability, but you get them on the field faster. Usually you want to put trained units in the battlefield. I'm just saying, it's an idea. It's an idea. New tech. Let's see what we can get. I'm going to go ahead of time on the 1940 tank. And again, that's because of my strategy later to get the focus that gives a bonus to researching armor. And then we can take the 1943 tank like super early and maybe just dominate the Germans or something. That research is here. So yeah, here the Valentine tank. See that? It gives you a 100% bonus for armor, and you can get the ahead of time penalty reduced by 2 years. Although it seems like it's for light tanks, so maybe I'm just being dumb. It says for light tank models. So actually, maybe my whole strategy will fall apart. But that's okay. It says in the description it's a durable medium tank, but then it says light tank model. So maybe that's a little bit of an oversight. Oh well. Either way, we finished our field hospitals, and that's cool. Let's maybe get, like... What else can we get? I don't know. I guess we can get the next infantry equipment. That sounds nice. I'm gonna grab a military theorist. This guy reduces the cost of our land doctrines. Doctrines are kind of like the style of war that you do. There's 4 in the game. One of them is like Soviet style, like just put bodies on the field. One of them is like, this one, the Grand Battle Plan, is about like entrenchment and stuff like that. Superior Firepower is about preserving manpower, and Mobile Warfare is blitzkrieging. That's basically it. You can read about what they do. Usually I just kind of pick one and I don't read the modifiers, I just click through whatever ones kind of sound the coolest. You can tell that I'm not very experienced in the game because a lot of what I'm doing is very vibes based, but for me it's the most fun way to play, is to just play on vibes. We almost have our Land Warfare Research Center thingy, which is really cool. We're going to put a scientist in there immediately once it's ready, and we're going to try to get flame tanks. We do have 1 breakthrough. There it is, it's ready. Let's recruit a scientist. Who do we got? This is the only guy that actually works in land warfare, so Patrick McDougall. We're going to hire him. And let's see, there it is, the Ram Badger project, the flamethrower tank. I don't even know if these are good, I just really enjoy flamethrower tanks. I've said it a couple times in the video now, I should stop saying it, but they're really cool. Anyone here ever play Command & Conquer Renegade? And you get to go into the flame tank and burn people alive? That is some of the most fun I've had in a video game ever in my life, to be honest. That game is criminally underrated. I say that, it was a pretty bad game, to be honest. It was not very good, but it did have some very fun moments. We're just going to grab more infantry equipment modifiers. We can see that our tanks are about halfway trained. We still have a deficit of about 358 tanks. We're making 6 every week. That needs to be sped up quite a bit. In fact, I think I'm going to take some factories off of probably the trains even. Don't really need trains. We can see we also need more trucks, so let's get more trucks as well. I'm going to prioritize the tanks, then the trucks, and then the infantry equipment. So we'll go like maybe like this, this, and this. That looks good to me. Making 1.5 a day. That's not bad. That's not bad. The war will begin pretty soon, because I imagine Germany's going after Poland relatively soon. First, they're probably going to finish annexing Czechoslovakia and release Slovakia. Then they'll go for Poland, probably. There's our research slot. Next, we're going to grab the Wartime Prices and Trade Board. This is going to help with our Great Depression modifier, because it's pretty bad right now. So the Stuart Kangaroo is a piece of mechanized infantry, which is a little bit different than motorized. Mechanized is like motorized, but it has hardness, which means it's not quite a tank. It's not completely hard how a tank is, or me, got him, but it's got a little bit of hardness. So we are going to research it, because eventually we might want to switch to mechanized. The problem is that mechanized require like a lot more resources and a lot more production, so they're a bit more expensive to make. Usually, like, the way the game kind of works is you start off making civilian factories, then you start making military factories once you've kind of gotten close to the wartime period. Because at first you want to get your civilian factories up so you can make stuff, and then you get your military factories up so you can make your military gear. I'm not sure, again, about the meta of like when to stop making civs and when to start making mills. I'm just going to do it based on vibes. Making 2.5 tanks per day, by the way, which means it'd only take like about maybe 75 days to finish off our deficit, which is great because that means we'll be right on time for the war, assuming that Germany invades Poland in like September, which I believe is when they historically did, was around September. Next up, we're going to grab the Canada Wheat Board. This is going to reduce the effect of the Great Depression by 25%. I'm going to edit my templates again, by the way. We're going to add, I think I had added or wanted to add some field hospitals to this. Again, this is just to save us some manpower. We're going to do that. This UI is a little bit wonky, but it says trickle back something, something, something. I believe that's like how much manpower that if it were to have died in the battle, instead does not die in the battle, more or less. We'll add that. We see that we're still just missing some tanks, I believe is all that we're missing. Yeah, just missing a couple more tanks, and then they can actually deploy. With 3 tanks and 13 other divisions, I'm going to swap these over to all infantry. These are like a mix of infantry and cavalry. We're just going to go all district militia, and we might even trick out our district militia a little bit. In fact, I think we will. Let's add a little bit of stuff to these. These aren't going to be motorized because they're just regular infantry. So if we were to add, for example, a support battalion like artillery, we're not going to motorize it because there's no reason to. It won't give us any extra speed. So we're going to add some artillery to our infantry. I'm going to give them field hospitals. We're going to give them support artillery. And maybe like I don't know. The rest of it we don't really even need. We could do like a recon detachment, but I don't think they really need it, to be honest. So we'll probably keep it pretty simple. We'll just go 2 artillery and support artillery and field hospitals. I think we do want engineers. Engineers allow the infantry to entrench more, so they'll be better for defending. So we're gonna grab engineers. And then, yeah, this looks good. 24 combat width seems fine. Again, I'm no expert, but we'll do that. Now we're probably missing some more stuff. So now we're missing more trucks, because the field hospitals require trucks. We're also missing artillery, because, you know, we just put in a bunch of artillery into our units. It's okay, though. I'm a little bit more willing to have some missing equipment on our little shitty, like, infantry guys, compared to having missing equipment on our elite, like, tanks. We are out of manpower, though, and that's a little bit concerning, but once the war starts, we can do stuff like war bonds, and we can make our way towards stuff like commit to the war. I say make our way towards. It's not that we make our way towards it, it's that we can only do this when we're at war. This is going to give us more recruitable population. Here comes the Canada wheat board. That's pretty good. Now we can grab Mine the Shield. We're just doing this again because it lets us access Alberta coal towns and commit to the war and a national steel car. It lets us get to all the good stuff. Here's our tanks. They have deployed. They look beautiful. Look at them there. We're just going to put them under the same general. This guy is, like, cool, I guess. Although, actually, I think... Let's put the 3 tanks under a different general. Let's put them under the guy that has 4 offense or 4 attack, because he just looks cooler and also he has better stats. And we'll set him to also maybe defend in Quebec. That way they're separate. We got to keep the elite units away from the not elite units, you know? Speaking of elite, we're going to mark these as elite. What this actually does is that as we play the game, we're going to upgrade our equipment. And the thing is that when you upgrade equipment, it doesn't just instantly make everything in your stockpile better. It instead begins producing the better equipment and stops producing the old equipment. So by marking these guys as elites, it means that they're going to be prioritized for getting all the new equipment, whereas other units are going to be prioritized for getting the less new equipment. You can do the reverse of this by marking a unit as a, I think it's colonial troop? Reserve troop. This means that they get the worst equipment. I'm not going to bother with that because I'm okay with them getting the mid-tier equipment. I don't really have too many layers of prioritization. I just want our Canadian Bacon armor troops to make sure that they get the elite stuff, because they're our big boys. They're going to do all the work. We're going to start working on excavation technologies now because we kind of need them in order to get more resources. Currently, I just don't have the technology to get all the steel that's in our country. It says expand iron ore mines, but these actually produce steel in those provinces, not just like iron ore generally. Also, my cat is here. She might walk into the microphone. Hello, kitty. She's walking on the keyboard. Move the keyboard. Okay. And she moved out of the way. The reason why I don't want her to walk on the keyboard is because she might press keys that will screw up my recording, or could screw up my game, or who knows what they could do. I was distracted by the cat, but you might have seen that we finished our flame tank research. So if we go into our production, we're going to make a new kind of medium tank. We're going to create a variant of our Crusader LP Mark 1. We're going to change out its gun for a flamethrower. And then we're going to mark its role as a flame tank. Or I was, but it's like weird. It's not showing up. Hold on. There it is. Okay, I don't know why it was weird. But basically what the flame tank does is that it doesn't actually have very good stats. So you look here, the stats are way worse. But that's not what its point is. Its point is that it's going to give bonuses to fighting in certain terrain and to attacking forts. I don't know if I should keep this stuff on it, but I guess I'm going to because I can. And we can maybe increase the armor on it. But no, I don't want to decrease the speed because then it'll slow down our other regiments. So we're going to keep it how it is, save it, and we're going to start building it. We're going to drag it up here. We're not going to need nearly as many flame tanks as we need like regular like mainline battle tanks. So I'm going to go like this. And then put these back on. We're gonna just put one, maybe like... Okay, we'll put like a few more factories on it. We'll go like this maybe. And this, and then... Yeah, that looks good. It's hard to prioritize what to build, honestly, because there's just so much I need to build. But anyway, now we can go to our units, and we can edit them, and we can add a new support company. That is the Medium Flame Tank Company. Now what it gives you see how it gives attack on all those terrain types? That's the reason why we want it. It's not necessarily about what stats it contributes. It contributes like a tiny bit of soft attack we can see, and a little bit of defense, I guess. It takes away a tiny bit of organization, but what it's giving us is bonuses in a lot of terrain types that could be useful. So we're going to grab it. Do we want to add it to our district militia? I don't think so. That feels a little bit overkill to put it on district militia. I don't think it would help very much, so we're not going to do that. We check how much of a deficit of flame tanks we have. We only have to produce 43. This is what I mean about how we don't have to make a ton of these. We just need a couple. We're going to put 3 factories on it for now, and then produce enough to get past our shortage, and then probably just go back to like 1 or 2 factories on it We don't need a lot of them, but a couple. Here comes August. I do believe that the war will be beginning very soon. The plan, more or less, by the way, just so we can talk about what we're planning to do, we're going to go to Malta, and the British Navy is going to hopefully do a good job of suppressing the Italian Navy, and then we're just going to land in Rome. You'd be surprised how easy it is to do that. We're going to see if it works this run. I'm not sure if it always works. Like, I don't know the play well enough to determine, like, will it always work or not. But I believe we can actually just go land in Rome. We might land in Tripoli first and just relieve the whole Africa. Oh, here it is. Yeah, so the war has begun in August, by the way. A little bit early. I think a little bit early anyway. Regardless, we do want to train up our guys first. So right now you see that some of them are a little bit green. We don't really want that. We're going to shift-click this exercise button. If we shift-click it, it trains them until they're as trained as they can be. So that way they're going to be ready to go to war. It's okay if we wait a little bit till we actually go and capitulate Italy. We don't have to necessarily rush, so it's fine. We're getting Lend-Lease offers from various members of the Allies. I'm going to accept all of them, except for ones from Britain, because taking Lend-Lease from your overlord makes you less autonomous, so we don't want to do that. We're going to just take it from anyone that's not Britain. They're basically sending us artillery, because the AI is seeing that we're having shortages, and they're trying to help us out. That's nice of them. Very kind of them. Okay, now that we're at war, we can go to war economy, by the way, which is great. War economy is basically like the best law. Total mobilization is even better, but it gives you a -3% recruitable population factor. So it begins to give you negative effects in order to give you a better economy. War economy is just good all around, though. Nothing wrong with that. We almost have our next improved medium tank chassis, by the way. We could like delay our war effort even more to try and get this better tank, but I think that would be kind of unnecessary. I think we can use our current tanks and maybe just, you know, slowly incorporate the new tanks as we go. Anyway, in order to change out those tanks, we're going to have to basically design a whole new tank, which is a little bit annoying. I wish you could kind of just like transfer over what you have to the new one. But first, let's make our main battle tank. So I believe we had a automatic cannon, unless there's a better... These are all like big... Yeah, these markers next to these mean it would give them a different role. So you see it says allows the tank destroyer role, allows the artillery role. Those are for like specialized tanks that do particular things. They do different stuff than what we want them to do. I just want a basic like frontline battle tank. So automatic cannon, we're gonna grab an improved radio, we're gonna grab some wet ammunition storage, we're gonna grab maybe like a secondary turret, we can grab another gun, how about a small cannon, and then I think we're gonna keep it a pretty simple tank, to be honest. Not gonna add too much crap to it. We're gonna increase the suspension for the extra speed, riveted armor for the cheap production, gasoline engine, and let's add some I guess some more speed to it. Interesting, this tank is much faster than our old tank, although to be fair, it has less armor. I think we go like 76% reliability. Remember, we're going to have the maintenance company on this unit, so it's going to have a little bit more reliability than what it might show here. Looks good. It looks kind of less cool than the Crusader tank, to be honest. This is the Ram. It looks less cool, but it's better, so we'll take it, I guess. Let's do the same for our Flame tank. We'll just, I mean, we have to just make a new one, I guess. Again, it kind of sucks. You have to go through this whole shenanigans every time, but it is what it is. Gotta make sure that we're at least as fast as the regular tank, which right now we're not, but I think, yeah, increased suspension gets us there. Add some armor, maybe. There's the Fall of Warsaw. That was quite fast. That was like, what, a month? A month is how long Poland lasted? Longer than France, I guess. Got him. We almost have our mechanized unit, but again, I'm not sure if we're going to swap to mechanized right away. Let's grab Commit to the War. We kind of need the manpower. I hope that once we get Commit to the War, we're actually going to have enough manpower to fill out our current units. I think with Commit to the War, yeah, we can go to limited conscription, and that will definitely get us enough units. Then I'm ready to go to Malta, and we're ready to go and deal with Italy. If we look right now, we should see that Italy's not even in the war yet, actually. I was going to say that we should see that Italy's probably fighting in Africa, but they're not actually in the war yet. We can get advanced flamethrower, that sounds good. But yeah, they're not actually in the war yet, so we can't invade them until they're in the war, which means that my delay here isn't actually very consequential. I'm not going to invade the Germans because I would just die to the Germans, and we don't have naval superiority in the eastern northeast. We can't invade them anyway. There goes Germany invading France, which I believe this is usually when Italy joins the war, is because they join in on the invasion of France. Yeah, there's attacking into Maginot. That's something. That's quite the choice on Germany's part. There probably are ways to build Germany to actually just punch right through the whole Maginot line, but I imagine that that is not worth the investment compared to just going around, as Germany tends to do. Belgium capitulates. That's not good for France. That heralds pretty much the end of France when that happens. Damn, the sound of naval battle is really loud. Do you hear that? That is loud. We should see that the British are going to destroy the Italian Navy. I don't imagine the Italians have a chance against the British Navy. If we get there fast enough, we can maybe land right in Rome. Because right now, the Italian Navy can probably maintain control over, like, its direct coast. But, especially now that the French fleet is gone. Yeah, see, it does. But, maybe we can kind of sneak in if we're lucky. You'd be surprised how often the AI kind of forgets to maintain control over its very important sea zones. So I think our first goal is going to be to stop the Africa campaign, because we could go over here to El Alamein, and right now no one's even there, so I guess Italy gets it for free. Well, that's hilarious. Good job, allies. We could try and fight actually in Egypt, but instead I'm going to probably land in Tripoli. I am amazed at the allies' incompetence right now, as they're like just allowing Africa to fall. There goes Cairo. That's great. We're going to go land in Tripoli now with the tanks. It looks like no one's there, but even if they are, I think these tanks can push them out. Maybe not though. Looks like maybe not. But we at least land here, and then we can push here. There we go. We can kind of help the help that tank get in there. We need a port because although you see we've landed here, it doesn't realistically count until we get control of a port, because without a port we can't get supply, and these tanks will very quickly die without supply. Oh god, it looks like this tank might actually die. Let's stop the invasion. I think this tank is gonna have to sadly pass away. Yeah, it was nice knowing you, Mr. Tank. There it goes. We've lost one. Very sad. Let's go ahead and train a new one, I guess. Look, you know I'm not good at the game, right? You know I'm not good at the game. This would be an opportunity to use Marines to try and do that landing better, or we can just hope that eventually the Italians make the mistake of not properly garrisoning their ports, and that we can try to get a better landing. We see that Britain made a landing, but they're going to get even more screwed than I did. Unless they can walk into Benghazi, which looks like maybe they can? No, okay, they got pinned. They couldn't walk into Benghazi. Very sad to lose that one tank battalion, but it's okay. Italy is just like destroying this front, which is crazy. I say maybe we try to land in... We could try to land in like Alexandria maybe, or maybe in Tobruk. It'd be nice to land in Tripoli though, only because it's like your back is against Vichy France, so you don't have to worry about covering two fronts. But at the same time, we'll take what we can get. It does look like they have a guy in Tobruk, but that doesn't look like a very useful unit, so maybe we can just win anyway. Let's go for it. Doesn't look very... maybe? I don't actually know enough about Hoi 4 to be able to look at this and interpret what's going wrong, but looks like naval penalty minus 80% is what's going wrong. That's what I'm going to guess is the problem. It's pretty bad. Maybe let's cancel that. Thankfully, because we didn't land already, we can just cancel it and go back home, and it's completely safe. Maybe instead of doing the Italy strategy, we could just try to land right in Rome. I wonder if he's garrisoning Rome. It'd be really funny if he wasn't. We could try to do a landing with infantry, or we could real quick train up some Marines, and Marines can probably land. Let's go into our tech. I believe I've researched Marines already. No, I haven't. Okay, well, we're almost done Dispersed Industry 3, and we'll research Marines, and then we'll come back with some Marines maybe. Marines are like specialized in landing navally. It'll take 145 days. It's a bit of a long time. Kinda sucks. We can also get a Chief of Navy to help us with getting some naval experience. That lets us upgrade our Marines a little more. I kind of want to go for the landing in Rome. I want to see if maybe we can pull it off. It'd be really funny if we did. There's not really a lot to lose. If you look at our casualties, we obviously lost that battalion of tanks, and that was very painful. We lost 20,000 men there. But in terms of other casualties, it hasn't really been that bad at all. You might be wondering how we're going to get naval dominance in the Tyrrhenian Sea. The plan is to, for just a few days, have our 4 destroyers enter that sea tile, and that's going to give us dominance. And then the Italians might respond eventually, but by the time they respond, we're already landing. Once you begin the naval invasion will complete. This is kind of insane, like to say the total Italian African dominance. And they are garrisoning their ports. Which, in terms of our production battle, we have like a lot of stuff. So we're doing a good job of producing stuff. We just don't have a ton of manpower, though. Actually, we can probably get some more district militia. I think we can train up a bunch. We're not going to deploy them right away, but we'll start training them back home. I'm going to put these on low priority, though. I'd prefer that equipment go to our actual men first that are like in the field before they go to training new ones. And it looks like our naval invasions are ready. This little green bar is what tells you whether or not they're ready to go. Let's send in our destroyers for just like 1 moment. Let's put on naval invasion support, and let's mark like that, and that should give us that gives us naval superiority, like just for a moment. Then we're going to send our naval divisions, and they should be able to go because we have naval superiority, even if only very briefly. Okay, we got over there. That's good. These don't have ports though, so they don't really count for much till we get a port. But let's see. If we're using support from the sides like that, we'll be able to actually land. We got the port in Livorno. That's beautiful. So we've landed. There we go. We got the port there too. We did it. Okay. Great. So there's the fall of Rome, 1940. Love to see that. We're going to immediately turn off all the orders, because when they land, they generate their own orders. We're going to use our field marshal. We're going to make one big front line. And we're going to swing south to Palermo. Well, not Palermo, but to Sicily, and then into Palermo later. This should make all the units kind of come over. And we're just going to go on aggressive. And we're going to just push. Because right now, I doubt there are very many Italians here. They're all probably in Africa, trying to fight there. So we're just going to push really hard and see if we can destroy the Italians. So they have quite a few units here, but our tanks are pretty good. I'm hoping that our tanks can push through despite their heavy defenses here. When you use the battle plan, you can rely on your generals to kind of just like do good stuff for you, but also you can manually move your units, and that could sometimes be wise. Not always, because sometimes, unless you know what you're doing with the game, you can maybe make some dumb decisions. You can get yourself encircled pretty easily. I'm going to try and cut Italy in half, because that tends to be pretty good at causing problems for them, although they have intercepted me. Let's maybe stop the push. We're getting a little too overzealous. Let's maybe wait until some of the allies try and help us out. I don't want them to take this port, so maybe we get off of Rome. Okay, well, that sucks. That's a dead tank. Wow, okay. Inconvenient. We're now down to only one tank, but that's okay. We still have at least one port. That was definitely not optimal. Losing that many units is painful, but it's okay. We've inflicted 70,000 casualties. We've taken 43,000, so we're not doing great here. We've got more units in the pipeline, but they're on their way. We can get the Department of Munitions to supply from more military factories. We definitely need more infantry equipment. I can see that. That's probably because we're making a lot of district militia. We also need supply or support equipment. Let's take off a bunch of stuff from our flame tanks. We don't really need that many flame tanks. Take off some trucks. Making more mechanized. That's good. We're just gonna see if we can hold here. Just kind of be a nuisance for the Italians. I am a little bit surprised, honestly, at how much of a defense they're kind of putting up here. I wouldn't have thought they'd be so vigorous with their defense. Yeah, this is a surprisingly large number of units. I'm hoping that the British like send some units to help us out, maybe, because we're kind of right now just soloing Italy. That is not optimal. It's a good thing we put engineers on these dudes, because this way they can entrench more easily. So if we look at one of these units, the longer they stand still, the more entrenchment they get. It's not a huge amount, but it's something. Speaking of which, I think I might actually grab one of these army command bonuses. We're gonna go for probably like static warfare to get more entrenchment. You know, we might swap this out later, but for now it's nice to have. If they want to keep attacking me, it's pretty cool with me, just because the more they attack, the more losses they're gonna take, although I think they will eventually push me out. In terms of casualties, I believe they're probably taking a big chunk of casualties from attacking me like this. It may have been wiser to move into Italy first, and then, or not Italy, sorry, move into Africa first and then into Italy. Because right now these guys are kind of just like here, and then they're being surrounded by like Germans. Also, it would have been nice to wait until Barbarossa happens, because right now the Germans are actually helping here. And they have actually good units. There's some British Raj units coming in, that's good, that'll help shore up our lines. I'm not sure if their units are any good, but there's something. Looks like we're getting bombed to hell here, by the way. I can't do much about that, because I didn't spend any preparation time making, like, you know, air units. So I can't really do anything about the bombings. You know, honestly, I'm kind of tempted just to pull back to Malta. I think maybe that's the best choice maybe here, is that we just pull back to Malta. Because I get the feeling that we're just going to get eventually pushed out here. So let's do that. Let's just leave. Everyone get to Livorno. Okay, those guys got destroyed. Okay, well, that sucks. That's 6 units killed. Okay, oops. Maybe that was actually not at all a good idea to pull out like that. Because that's a lot of people that are going to die. I'm sorry, Canadians. I'm doing you very dirty. Playing very poorly. But it's okay, we have more coming. Yeah, that was not very good. That's going to be a lot of casualties. I believe in World War II, let me quickly Google how many Canadians died in World War II and just get an idea of how poorly we're doing. About 45,000 Canadians died in World War II, and so far we have lost 140,000. So we are doing very poorly. We do not have our Marines, which is good. Let's go ahead and make a... Well, we don't have to make a Marine division, we already have one. I think we're going to want probably port artillery and a field hospital. We can just add more Marines to it. So it's a bigger unit. Then we can get some support battalions, like artillery added to it. It doesn't have to be too big of a unit. It's okay if it's a little bit small. We can't train any because we don't have enough manpower right now, but we can probably get the next manpower law. We have to first get if day. Okay, and if day is right there. Okay, let's go through a couple focuses for that. We could also just get rid of our Quebec conscription issues. So if we go Long Branch Arsenal into forced Quebec conscription, we can actually get a ton of manpower. So we'll probably do that. It was a fun little excursion into Italy, though. Definitely interesting, if nothing else. Although costly, very, very costly. As a country with low manpower, taking like 100,000 losses like that is not acceptable, to be frank. I think they're maybe not garrisoning Tripoli right now, which means maybe I can land there. There it is, yeah, okay. Alright, well that was... Sometimes you get lucky, I guess, and the AI just abandons its fronts. Well, we're not taking massive naval penalties. 376 attack seems good to me. Again, I don't have a good idea in mind of like how much is a good amount, but it's doing quite a bit of damage to those Italians, so we love to see that. We probably also want to actually start using our mechanized, by the way. I just realized that we've been making these mechanized. We probably should be using them. We don't really have a ton of them yet, though, so I want to wait a little bit longer before deciding to put a bunch of them to use. There's some encircled Italians. Now begins the push. The long march east across North Africa. There's going to be a lot of supply issues here, because North Africa just isn't well supplied. Just is what it is. These little red jerry cans indicate that there's low supply. When you have low supply, you do less damage in combat. It's similar to being low on equipment, is that you get a percentage cut in how much stuff you can do. But the thing is that if we're low on supply here, so is the enemy, so it kind of just evens out. The times where you're going to be low on supply and the enemy won't be, will be situations where, let's say, like you're fighting in Russia, and there's like a supply depot here in Gomel. See this 1 out of 1? There's a supply depot here. If the Soviets control this supply depot and you don't, they get supply and you don't, and you're screwed. That could be a situation where supply actually really matters. Out here in North Africa, no one has supply. Everyone's kind of just like, you know, starving and dehydrated. It is what it is. Once we get to Benghazi, though, that's a port. Ports are kind of like supply hubs. So once we take that port, we actually will have supply again. If we were worried that we couldn't take Benghazi because of our supply issues, what we would do is we would build a railway from Tripoli across where we need supplies. So right now we see there's no railways. We could go like this and build a railway all the way to Benghazi, and that would give us supply along the railway. But we're just going to grab the port instead, and that's going to give supply to everyone. As you can see, the red jerry cans are gone now. They can operate at full strength. Except down here. They're a bit far. Here there's still problems because tanks in the middle of the desert do not do well. Also, we're going to force Quebec conscription. The way this works is that if you force it, then they're occasionally going to damage your factories, but you completely get rid of the recruitable population issue. If you compromise with them, they don't damage your factories, but you only get rid of it partially. I'd rather just get rid of it completely, because the slight damage to factories is not really that big of a deal. There's Tobruk, which is another port. Taking this again is important for the purpose of getting supply. You can see all these red jerry cans, but the moment we take Tobruk, they will go away. By the way, I didn't really show it off, but you can see that we're actually almost no longer a dominion because we've participated enough in this war to earn our autonomy. The moment we can become autonomous, we will of course become autonomous. There's no reason not to. So the next port is going to be, I think, all the way in Alexandria, so it's going to be a while till we actually get resources again. We can see that these Italian troops just have like no organization, and they're also running out of supplies. So it's a pretty much even fighting field here. It's always very satisfying to push through Italian lines. We're just going to click manually onto Alexandria and tell them all to like march. Although that doesn't seem to be that effective. Oh, that's a German troop, that's why. Maybe we can cut him off though. Go kind of hard. See, there's German troops here, and the Germans are much more capable of fighting than we are. So that's why we're a little bit afraid to face any Germans in combat, especially when we have no supply. I'm thinking that actually, in this case, we are going to build a railway. Build like a level 2 railway. We're going to need the supply. Getting through to Alexandria is going to be kind of tough. Of course, what I could do, it's kind of a big brain move, is let's just do a naval invasion into Alexandria and cut off his supply. It looks like it's guarded, so maybe we go for Port Said instead. Instead of pull the tanks off, I'm going to hope that the infantry can just at least kind of hold a little bit. They don't have to necessarily like hold for a long time, but just hold for a bit, long enough that the tanks can get in there and destroy the enemy from behind. Looks like the Germans pulled out for some reason. Okay, but we're moving behind them to Port Said, and it looks like there's no one garrisoning it. Oh, okay, there is someone. Okay, though. The allies are here to kind of help us. Also, we can become free. Let's do that. We are now a free nation. Check it out, we're just Canada. About 40 years early compared to when we're supposed to become independent of the British Kingdom. This tank might be dead, unfortunately, unless we can save it by getting over there fast enough. The reason why, when it's isolated like that, it ends up getting killed is because normally when you run out of organization, the unit will move to another friendly tile. But if there's no friendly tile to move to, then the unit will just be destroyed, which is why it's so dangerous to be isolated like that. There we go, we're safe. Now we don't have to worry. There's the Forced Quebec conscription, by the way. Unfortunately, the sandstorm is kind of blocking my vision of the game itself. I understand the sandstorm blocks vision of combat, but I can't really even see the game when it's like this. Here's our Marines. We're going to put the Marines on a separate general as well. Maybe we can find a field commander to promote. The thing is that promoting them is only really worthwhile if they have a certain amount of experience, but I think it's okay. Let's grab Brigadier Alexander Doyle, whoever this guy is. Or maybe we can get John Hastings. We can give him a medal. I'm not sure if this really matters for the purpose of him becoming a general. Let's promote him. Sure. So now, whenever we promoted John Hastings here, and now he's like a pretty terrible general, but he's also the most flexible because he can just he has no other experience. So if we were to look at his details, we can try to get him the commando trait by getting him to do a bunch of naval penalty fights with these Marines. So maybe we can make him our Marine expert, you know? Let's get him over here, and let's get him to maybe plan like a naval invasion into Rome or something. But this time we can not mess it up, maybe. I'm not sure what we use him for yet, actually. Maybe we just keep him in Malta for the time being. How many casualties have we inflicted on the Italians now? Hopefully it's gone up a little more. We inflicted 56,000. Okay, still not nearly enough to remove the embarrassment of our current casualty count. It is what it is. That's going to be a lot of Italians dead right there. Nice. I think we can look at this to look at the log, right? So this shows us how many people died. 19,000 people were killed in the Eastern Desert there. I thought it would be more, but I guess these are pretty small divisions, right? They're probably not putting a lot of people in these battalions. We're kind of low on manpower again, though, but we're going to get IF Day, and we're going to get the next level of conscription pretty soon. Also, the Germans are now attacking the Soviets. This is our opportunity to invade Italy. Because now when we invade Italy, there's not going to be any Germans there, because they're going to be busy with the Soviets. So I think we're gonna reattempt our invasion of Rome very soon, and hopefully it'll go a little better this time. See another encirclement here. Should be a big pocket. There you go. Killed 22,000. Nice. Running out of fuel, but like I said, if we ever need fuel, we just ask the Americans for some, and they'll happily provide. Get like four factories worth. There you go. Now we have a massive fuel surplus. We'll just keep that trade up for maybe a couple months and then cancel it, just so we can get some fuel out of them. We'll eventually get our own fuel once we get the Alberta oil. Like, there's going to be, I think it's... Where is it? It's over here. Yeah, the Turner Valley oil field gives a bunch of oil in Alberta. And once we have that, we just make our own fuel. We don't have to worry about importing it anymore at that point. Anyway, there's all the Italians gone. Another 32,000 dead. Perfect. And now we can prepare our invasion into Rome. Let's instead put everyone into North Africa, where there's a little more space for them, rather than packing them all on the tiny island. And then we'll get ready for our invasion of Rome. Let's plan our invasion. We'll start with the Marines, because they actually are good at doing naval invasions. But from Tripoli, we'll go to the port and to Rome. Logistically speaking, we're short on artillery and support equipment and medium tanks. That should get fixed up pretty soon, though. I just hired the Special Forces guy, Frederick M.W. Harvey, because we do have some Marines now. Marines are considered Special Forces. After we get John Inglis and the Victory Aircraft Limited, we can actually get defense research grants, which we're able to get because we're fully independent. This is basically Canada's reward for achieving independence. They get another research slot, which is pretty nice. Although, to be honest with you, we kind of have everything that we want. I think it is time to swap over to mechanized at this point. So let's look at our Canadian Bacon unit here. I feel kind of like cringe using that name now, to be honest, but let's add mechanized instead. So we see that mechanized, if you look at this bar, this is the hardness bar. Ignore the dirty jokes you can make. We add mechanized, it increases the hardness bar, which is great. We're going to add more. The way that hardness works is that the more of it you have, the less effective soft attack is, and the more effective hard attack is. Unless your enemy is explicitly using something like tank destroyers, you're probably not going to be seeing a lot of hard attack on the field, so it's pretty nice to just go full hardness. Looks like the motorized are a little bit slower than the mechanized, or sorry, other way around, the mechanized are a little bit slower than the motorized, but that's okay. Not really worried about that. This is going to require us to have 320 mechanized. How much do I have store right now? 504? Okay. Maybe we want to not quite go full mechanized yet. Maybe we want to go keep a little bit of motorized around for a bit longer. We'll go like half mechanized, half motorized. Just to say, because we don't have enough mechanized right now to support this change. That should see our mechanized get drained pretty quick. Yep. This. We want to produce a whole lot more of those now. In better news, we're almost caught up on our tank shortage. We have plenty of medium flame tanks. Nothing to worry about with that. I do think those mechanized are going to help our tanks be a lot more effective, though. I think it was very worthwhile to do that. Looks like there's no one present in Tyrrhenian Sea, so we're going to send in our tiny little navy to go and give us supremacy, and then we shall land our marines first. I have faith in them. Maybe it's misplaced, but I have faith. Yeah, look at that. So marines do still take a naval penalty, but see, remember when the tanks from before were like minus 80%? This is minus 13, which is significantly less deadly than the one the marines taking. Nonetheless, one of them is having trouble, the other one seems to be doing well. Bit of a toss-up, I guess. As long as they land in the port, this landing in Rome isn't as important as landing in the port next to Rome. It's a bit weird that their port is next to the capital, as opposed to being like directly on the capital, but no big deal. We've landed. Excellent. Okay. Let's set up a front line. By the way, special help here. If you hold shift and then right click, or is it shift? It's control and right click. Then they will help the attack, but they won't move there. If you just right click, then the problem would be that if I were to just right click, they'd help the battle, and then after the battle wins, they'd move there. And that would leave the port open to be taken. If the port gets taken, that's a disaster for me. If I control right click, they're going to help the battle, but they won't leave this tile. That helps me a lot. Although it looks like the naval battle failed, so rip. That's okay though. We should see the rest of our units coming in to support in this tile soon. It's looking a bit risky, but I do believe that they'll get there in time. We've all landed. Okay, good. Let's immediately just move into Rome. There is probably a supply hub here. There sure is. We want to get control of it. Although we are seeming to have some trouble here. We just like don't have a lot of organization because we just landed. I think we probably want to just like chill for a minute. Oh, why am I so bad at this game, dude? I'm worried that we're gonna all get killed because we didn't get enough of we only have one tile, so we can't like retreat if we lose organization. We unironically need to escape, even though we just got here. I think we actually need to escape, or else we're gonna lose this whole army. So let's actually get out. We need to land like more tiles, because right now we only have the one tile, and that's not good. Look, we're losing. Oh god, they're all dying. Oh no, they're all dying. Yeah, we're losing all of them, even though we have the port. That's insane. We just lost like our entire army. Crap. That's not good. So how many losses have I taken in this war now? 200,000? Yeah, wow. Okay. That's not good. That's kind of like too disastrous of a loss to recover from. I don't believe in giving up, okay? I don't believe in giving up. We have to retrain our marines too. We really need to get to if day so that we can get more manpower. We're just throwing away, like... I'm thinking about, like, the catastrophic amount of displeasure the Canadian public would feel if they were told that 500,000, well, 1/3 Canadians were killed in, like, the dumbest naval operation known to man. I think it would be an insane backlash. To put it lightly, to put it very lightly, it would be truly something. Regardless, we're gonna do it again. I want to be clear, by the way, that all this is, like, my own fault. This is... Normally, when I play games and I get destroyed, I blame the game because I'm good at the games that I play. This game, I'm not good at. This is my own fault. I am, like, completely throwing of my own volition entirely. Also, to be clear, when I blame the game in other games, that's copium. It is almost certainly also still my fault in those games too. Let me have my cope, okay? I'm so glad I had those field hospitals, right, guys? Also, we can skip right to service by requirement. Yo, that's sick. Wow, okay, this is a bit weird that we can't get extensive conscription because we need if day. We can skip right to service by requirement because we have forced Quebec. So that's insane. 10% recruitable population. If you thought 1/3 dead Canadians was a lot, you're not ready for how many dead Canadians we're about to make. Not that I'm trying to get them killed, to be clear. I actually intended for this to be like a GIGACHAD campaign where I was going to capitulate Italy in like 1940, but I'm kind of enjoying the like throwing arc as well, so I'm cool with this. I can already see the name of the video. It's going to be something like throwing away 500,000 Canadians. That's a terrible title. What am I saying? I'll think of a better title when the video is ready, okay? Probably not. It's probably just going to be like how to destroy the Canadian population Boy 4 GIGACHAD guide, and there'll be a GIGACHAD on the left side of the thumbnail, and it'll have this guy's face on it with sunglasses, of course, followed by like a picture of the casualty count or something. That sounds about right, right? I will join the war against Japan because why not, I guess. Because America is now in the war. The beast awakens. Very cool. It's gonna take a bit for our people to mobilize, by the way. We're up to like 10%, and 0.3% of them are mobilizing each day. We're gonna get a whole lot of people joining the army very soon. We don't even have if day yet. If day by itself also gives more... Oh, it doesn't. I thought it gave more recruitable population, but it actually just gives consumer goods factories percentage, whatever. So it's not going to give us actual people, but that's okay. We could go all adult serve. That'd be like, it'd be crazy to imagine like Canadians being this dedicated to World War II. Not that they weren't dedicated to, but it was ultimately a war on another continent. It wasn't like it was something that you had to conscript every adult into, which is more like what the Germans and the Russians were doing, right? Do we even want IF Day? Well, I guess we want it so we can get the defense grants research. So yeah, we'll get IF Day. It's not actually going to be that good for us because normally you would use this to get your next level of conscription, but because we already forced Quebec, we can just skip to the even higher level of conscription. But it is what it is. It's still useful to get for the consumer goods bonus. We could, if we were being smart, work on an air force. However, I'm dedicated to this like tank and infantry only build. That's what we're doing, okay? We're not building an air force. Speaking of which, by the way, if we're planning to swap over to mechanized, why don't we just like stop producing trucks? We don't really need them if we're just gonna make mechanized. Is there anything else we want to add to this? We could make it even larger. We could go an even higher combat width. But I think this is good how it is. For our Marines, I think we actually want to add more artillery to it. So let's do that. 21 width. I think 21 width is probably fine. Then let's add like Pioneers is good. This is going to give them a bunch of bonuses on amphibious, which is mostly what they're doing. And then we can add like maybe we could give them a flame tank company. This would give them even more attack when they're doing amphibious landings. It feels weird to think of the fact that you can add the flame tank company and it won't actually contribute to them being worse at naval invasions. Doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me, but it works, I guess. So sure, let's do that. So these Marines are gonna I'm trying to imagine like they're gonna land, they're bringing artillery with them somehow, and they're bringing flame tanks with them, which are gonna like light the beaches on fire as they land. I don't know how it works, but I imagine that it makes sense somehow. If there's one thing we could say that we did manage to actually save Africa. Italy was actually winning Africa, and that was us that saved it. So if history ends up saying that Canadians didn't do much for this war, they're wrong. Canadians are responsible for the liberation of Libya. Okay? There will be forever a cultural connection between Libyans and Canadians because of this, akin to the real-life connection between the Dutch and the Canadians on account of Canada's role in liberating Holland from the Germans. We're not totally useless. Let me cope. What we could do to help us out, we can actually make an intelligence agency. Let's make the RCMP, because then we can use them to get some intelligence on Italy. And the way intelligence works, it's pretty complicated, but from what I understand, the basic of it is the more intelligence you have, the more you nullify bonuses the enemy would get from planning, and bonuses they would get from entrenching. Planning gives you offense when you attack, entrenchment gives you defense when you are attacked. It's a pretty simple system. But basically, intelligence just negates those bonuses, so it can be quite useful. The planning bonus is here. Obviously, we don't have a plan right now, so it's not going up, but you see it gets up to 30% more attack. If you have max intelligence, it would give 0% more attack. Pretty cool. There's the RCMP. Let's go ahead and just upgrade it a bit. Don't worry about all this stuff. Honestly, this is too complicated to explain. I'm just going to click buttons to get upgrades, and then as I get upgrades, I get more operatives, and then I can place the operatives in Rome. That's all that we're going to really do. Curious about my war participation. I'm at 3%. That's pretty low. That's probably because most of what I've been doing is just, like, getting killed. I haven't really been doing a whole lot. My big contribution to the war, as I mentioned, is indeed just, like, taking Africa, but it wasn't really that much of a contribution, because Africa's not worth a whole lot. At least not in terms of how the game evaluates it. Obviously, in real life, holding Africa was very important for the war. For the purpose of this game's logic, it's not that important. We're about to catch up on our tank deficit, and our mechanized deficit is coming pretty soon. We actually make more tanks than we make mechanized right now, just because our production efficiency is pretty low, but that'll catch up eventually. You can see here that Italy is actually on all-adult serve, based on our intel from the spy that we have. They're on all-adult serve, and they have only 133,000 manpower left, which means that eventually, although it's not really the way that we should be operating, we could just grind the Italians down to nothing, because they're almost on the last level of mobilization before they're going to just run out of people. Most of those losses, I imagine, were not taken against me. They've taken 1.6 million losses, half of which were to the UK, and then the second of most which were taken by me. It's cool. But that's obviously not wise, because we don't really have enough men to do a race to the bottom against a nation like Italy, let alone later on a nation like Germany. Looks like the UK is fabricating on Vichy France, so we're gonna get what's left of France involved in the war soon. That's actually kind of a good opportunity for us to be useful again, because maybe we can help with the invasion of Tunis. We can just kind of take care of more of North Africa, which has so far been a bit of our specialty. I don't really want to fight through, like, the Sahara, because it's going to be horrible to do so, but I guess we might end up having to. I think we're going to drop these units early, and we'll let them train in the field. We don't really have a lot of time to wait around anymore. Let's put the tanks on our tank guy. Put the Marines on our Marine guy. I know, riveting. Let's get the naval invasion ready. This time, let's not mess it up. How about that? It looks like the British kind of just have supremacy over the Tyrrhenian Sea. While we're doing this, we can also continue to train more units in the background. We're going to put these on low priority, though. We want the equipment to go to the current units rather than the training unit, of course. I probably should research the next level of the landing craft as well, because I think we're at the time where we can do that now. So after we get this improved artillery upgrade, let's go and research the landing craft upgrades. We're going to become Spy Master. This is a thing where, this is more a multiplayer mechanic. The leader of a faction can be the Spy Master of a faction, basically. And that means that they get a lot more spies, and they kind of handle all of the subterfuge of the game. But with the AI, they'll just always give it to you, because you're a player. As you can see, like, if you want to be the Spy Master, you can be the Spy Master. When we get Spy Masterhood, we basically get all of the spies that we would have gotten if we were playing Britain. We can use them to great effect. I'm going to grab limited exports. So the way this works, if we look at our market, we see that like we by default export a certain number of goods. I'd like to reduce how much we export, because that way we can avoid having to trade as much. It's going to harm us in the sense that we lose a bit of construction speed, a bit of research speed. Like, everything is worse if we don't trade, but we need the resources, so we're going to do that. That means we can import less American steel, although we're starting to import some. Wish me luck. Wish me luck, people. Oh, looks like our allies at the same time are landing in Palermo by complete coincidence. There's a landing happening in Palermo as well. That's good. There's a lot of men just on the coasts of Italy. That's unfortunate for us. But it looks like we're kind of able to land. Okay, oh, we got... Okay, great. Wow, that went well. Push in there to help with that battle. Okay, we got into Rome. Good. Okay, nice. Alright. Let's help over here. We're gonna land in Napoli, I hope so. This guy got amphibious. Oh, this guy got invader. Oh, funny this guy did when he's not even the guy that we marked as our, like, commando type. Sure, let's get amphibious. If we land in Napoli, then we'll get the port, which means these guys won't get instantly murdered. That's wonderful. There we go, we did it. Okay, awesome. Now we're gonna... Okay, we need to connect up here. Let's go like this to try and connect up. Don't abandon the port, though. Don't do that. Don't abandon the port. That would not be good. This is very high stakes for me, okay? I'm very focused right now. I'm surprised they have, like, no supply. Why do they have no supply in their heartland? What has Italy done to be this incompetent that they have no supply in the middle of Italy? I know they're known for their incompetence, although perhaps I am known for my incompetence because of how I've been getting my ass kicked by the Italians. But, what are they doing that they have no supply in the middle of Italy? What's going on here? What's happening? They just got really good units? Oh, there's a river there. Oh, that explains it. Okay, I didn't notice the river. That is why they're having so much trouble pushing. So for the sake of cohesion, I'm gonna say these guys probably should just leave and go into Rome with the rest of the army. So we're gonna go like this, and everyone is going to form a line from Rome, rather than having the multiple fronts. They shouldn't get killed or anything. I believe they'll be fine. They should be able to escape. Yeah. So we're gonna do a office plan, I think, once everyone arrives. This button basically spends your command power to give you a massive increase to how much planning you get. So we're gonna first do some planning. Then we're going to do a big march across the mountains of Italy. I think this is called the Apennines. I forget what you call this mountain range. There are some river crossings that are kind of annoying, but I think we can just push through the river crossings with our flame tanks, which do give a nice bonus. There we go, making progress in the flatlands. Okay, there's the war with Vichy France. Good luck with that, because I took all my men out of North Africa. So hopefully France does not undo all the work we did in Africa. Oh, now there's French battalions here. That's kind of bothersome. The French battalions probably aren't that good, but they're still going to be just extra bodies on the field that are going to be a problem for us. Okay, I think what we do here... I know that we abandoned that previous little pocket that we had, but I think we're actually going to do another naval invasion with our Marines. Just from Anzio over to Napoli, just so we can maybe try to alleviate some pressure. I'm a little bit worried about how possible this naval invasion will be. We don't even have naval dominance there, so that's actually definitely not possible. I guess the French fleet must be out. Yeah, the French fleet is now being used against us because the Vichy France is in war, so actually we can't do that plan. I mean, I guess we can just keep pushing until we eventually win. The Italians probably are losing more and more manpower. Never mind, they went to, they suddenly have a crap ton more. I don't know where they got that from. But go to the tank. How good are these tanks? Are these tanks actually any good? Maybe these tanks aren't very good. Maybe we messed up. I think our best bet probably is to just keep on pushing against them. Let's go force attack on everyone and just see if that gets us through. What we need to do is we need to like get out of these mountains, because fighting in these mountains is really painful. If we can make it through the mountains and we can split their realm, I say realm, I'm really CK3 coded, okay? If we can split their nation in half, then that will make it significantly easier to push into them. It's always hype for me to get the upgrades on the generals. We can get infantry expert, we love that. Infantry expert is great because this guy just has infantry, so he is really awesome to have that on. We are pushing now. That's probably because of the force attack, which basically gives you more stats at the cost of your units basically fighting until they die. So it's like you're spending their lives in order to force them to keep on fighting, despite the fact that they're probably going to die because of it. It can be useful if you just need to like push somewhere, because we need to get through these mountains. And maybe it would help if we had gotten some mountaineers to help with this. Because right now we have Marines, we needed them in order to do these landings, but Mountaineers could have been really good for pushing through these mountains. But I think we can do it just with the power of our tanks and artillery. We have another focus. I probably missed out. I probably wasn't paying attention, didn't take any focuses for a bit. We'll just get to military factory. From what I understand, the Canadian focus tree is very outdated and just kind of like is very simple and basic, but that's okay. I find Hoi 4 fun more for the creative side of it, more so than focusing in on all the cool stuff you can do. They commentate more on the fighting, but with Hoi 4, you kind of just watch the fights and then adapt according to what you think is happening. Which isn't always easy to know, unfortunately. The big problem is probably that we're getting bombarded by, like, airplanes. And I can't do much about that, because I just neglected flight the whole game. So although it might be wise to try and pivot into planes, I just don't see us being able to build up planes to actually help out. There are some allied planes trying to help us out, and we actually have dominance in the Alpine region. We're going to stop the offensive for a bit. You know what I can do? Since I occupy Rome, this actually is very smart. Hold on, I'm going to big brain right now. We're going to build up a bunch of anti-air right in Lazio. This, because I talked about we're getting destroyed by anti-air, and I can't do anything about it because I don't have planes. I can just build AA guns. That's the thing I can do. So we're going to do that, and that should actually, like, seriously help us, like, a lot. I believe anti-air guns shoot down enemy planes very efficiently. It's gonna take them a while to build. It's gonna take like a month, but I mean, we're here. You know, we're not going anywhere. This is a very stalemate position where, like, on the defensive, my guys are entrenched. They're infantry. They are like they're tanks, and we have part of the mountains now. We can't push though because their planes are gonna like bomb us to hell. Although I say that they can bomb us to hell while they're attacking us too. But the advantage for being on the defensive is just so good, so it's hard to really compete with it. I could also start building some anti-air stuff. I have actually researched anti-air units. I could put some down. I feel like we need to save our manpower for other stuff right now. Let's get engineering company too. That'll help with our entrenchment. That does actually sound useful. I think the play is actually just to wait for the anti-air guns to build in Lazio. Take a month per, but they're going to start shooting down a lot of planes. Let's see if we can get an idea of how many are getting shot down. There's one. Okay, we shot one plane down right there. One plane again. Okay. There's only 3,000 planes in the sky, so if we shoot down one every couple days, you know, we'll work our way through them eventually. I think we really have to get rid of all the air. If we look at we can get an idea of how much damage the air is doing. You see this number? This is 15.73. I'm not sure, like, how to exactly explain how much 15 is or damage to divisions. Basically, this is how much, like, those planes are causing pain to our units. When we fight, they do a lot more damage because there are battles going on and they get involved. If we're not fighting, they're not doing as much damage. I think we wait for the anti-air guns to be built. They shoot down the planes, and then we start fighting. Italy is racking up more and more casualties. We finally have inflicted more casualties on them than they have inflicted on us after all of our failures earlier in the war. We're lacking infantry equipment at this point. So now we're just having a real equipment problem. We wouldn't be if we hadn't lost so much equipment to those failed invasions before. I will continue to harp on how funny those failed invasions were. It's comically terrible how poorly those invasions went. It's comical to imagine that much. Like, it would be written in textbooks, the disaster at Rome. You know how awful that was. It's just funny to me. How much longer till all the AA guns are built? We have 2 more levels to build. Each one takes about a month to build. Let's take a look at how much they're destroying now. 2 planes downed. 2 planes downed. Alright. There's only a couple thousand in the air. It's okay. I think it is actually getting worthwhile to start making some anti-air units. I think we actually need to do this. It's going to be painful because we just don't have, like, the factories to spare, but I think we need to. We're gonna start making anti-aircraft guns. Once we have a nice stockpile of them, we're gonna add support units to our units. Is Italy taking Africa again? Dude, like, do I have to go back and reclaim Africa for the Allies again? You got dudes right there. You can go and take it. It's like there's like 3 or 4 Italian divisions taking over like all of Palestine. We're almost done our last AA gun in Rome. Oh, we should have gotten the Dominion of Canada Rifle Association because this gives extra production to your infantry equipment. Well, rather, it reduces the cost of each gun, which is basically like having extra production, as well as reducing training time. This would have been really good to have this whole time, and I didn't have it. That's my bad. To be fair, a lot of stuff in this game has been my bad. Let's add the support anti-air here. I kind of want to add the support super heavy artillery because it's really funny. This is like a giant cannon basically that you add to the group, but I don't really produce any super howitzers right now. I can start making them though, and I think that for the fun of it, I will make them. So we see here, this is a super heavy howitzer. We can only put 5 facts on it at a time. I wonder what we take off of. I guess we take some stuff off of our mechanized, although that's a little bit painful. We're gonna get night vision. This is useful because half of the time on Earth is nighttime, at least in Hawaii 4. They don't account for time zones, so even in the middle of summer, exactly 12 hours a day are night, 12 hours a day are day. So getting bonuses in nighttime is nice. We can see that the number of planes here is decreasing, although this might just be them moving the planes around rather willy-nilly, rather than planes actually being shot down. But hopefully, we will slowly reduce the Italian air presence. Let's see if we can grab Firenze. It's a supply hub, so it's a pretty important thing to take. Okay, good. That's an important supply hub. We're glad to have that. I don't know if it'll... I mean, Bologna is also a supply hub, so I doubt that it's like... I doubt they're going to lose supply because of this move, but it does mean that we're going to have even better supply. We do see that Free France is making a move into Provence that might distract Italian troops. I think let's make a push and see how it goes. But you're on aggressive, that's good. Let's see how the push goes. I think we can make some pretty good progress, especially because we have the supply hub in Firenze. Let's see how the planes are doing now. Are they inflicting... Yes, only 2 damage. They were doing 20 before, or 15 I think it was, remember? So now they're doing a lot less damage to our units, and you can see that reflected in how well we're pushing compared to before. It's not like we're pushing insanely well, but before we couldn't even move an inch, but now we're kind of inching forward, if only a little bit slowly. Nonetheless, inching though. Okay, this is good. This is very good. We've pushed past the mountain here. If we can grab this right here, this little tile, and then we grab Ancona for the port and the supply hub, that would be really good. Our tanks are doing pretty well. I'm happy with how the tanks are performing. Yeah, look at that, we're just ripping them apart. A big part of what's helping here, these tanks are very hard. So you see that 2 enemy divisions cannot pierce this division's armor and deal 50% damage. This is because of the hardness on this unit. So they're dealing half damage, and their hard attack is already so low. So they're not really able to do very much damage to this unit, and they're also doing half because they don't have enough piercing. That's one of the stats that determines if you can pierce the armor. Is the hardness is if you have piercing stat. Anyway, we have successfully bifurcated Italy. Now it does make for a more logistical nightmare for me as well as for the Italians when the nation is bifurcated. However, I like to think that it's more of a problem for them than it is for me. Looks like we're doing pretty well in the north. The south is a bit tougher because again it's more mountainous here. We don't have any mountaineers. But in the north, there's a lot of rivers, and we do have Marines, although I don't think any of the Marines are here. Yeah, these are all... Those are the Marines. They're fighting not on the rivers. Smart move. If I were min-maxing, what I would do is I'd probably move the Marines up to the rivers so they could fight, and then I'd let the tanks fight in La Spezia. But it's okay. I mean, the flame tanks do help them cross rivers. Don't ask me why. The flame tanks give bonuses in pretty much all terrain, including rivers. If we can cross this bridge, that'd be really, really good, because bridges are pretty hard to cross. I think to help make this happen, we're going to take this guy, we're going to put force attack. We're going to put force attack. We're going to just see if we can really go ham here and push. Force attack is putting in work here. Because I think it is. Again, I don't know the game well enough to actually tell you if it's because of force attack that we're winning. But I like to think it's helping. We got a new trait. What do we got? Ooh, a Panzer expert. That's great. So this guy, because he's been controlling all of our armor units, he's gained... we can give him... Well, actually, Panzer Expert, that gives Armor Division defense. I'd kind of rather get Combined Arms Expert because it gives Mechanized defense. And Mechanized are kind of more about defense compared to the Panzers, and also it's a larger number. It's 15% compared to 10%. So I'm going to grab the Combined Arms Expert instead of the Panzer Expert. Making good progress in the south as well. Love to see this. Finally, after so much embarrassing gameplay, we are actually defeating the Italian. Proud to say that the skill issue is over. Famous last words, I know. Now that we have a little bit of a stockpile of super howitzers, I'm going to see if I can put one maybe on the district militia. Yeah, sure, we can put it on there. This is kind of just funny. I don't know if it's actually very useful, but let's do that. I think we're going to have a shortage of them now, but not by a lot. You don't produce very many super howitzers, and you also... or super heavy howitzers, I should say. But you also don't need a lot of them. At this point, we're almost done all of our actually good focuses. We have focuses over here, by the way, for naval and for air, but I just don't... I'm not doing them, because I don't plan to do any air or naval stuff. So I guess we can finally go for army modernization. They give us some XP, which is always nice. Mussolini's deposed. That's good. I think that's good. I hope it's good. I think we're gonna get the event where the Kingdom of the South pops out pretty soon. Also, this is... oh my god, this is a huge encirclement. Wow, wow, wow. That's crazy. That's gonna be a whole lot of kills. For now, I just want to see this crazy encirclement here. We're gonna kill so many Italians. Well, first we have to push them out of here, then we kill them down here. Yeah, this is gonna go really hard. That's like... how many divisions is that in there? That's a lot of divisions in there. We're just gonna start killing them all. Okay, there we go. How much was that? That was 261,000. Wow. That's a lot. That's like... almost as much as we've taken in the entire war, just in that one moment. We're now fighting in France, by the way, as the front has led all the way west into Vichy France. There's the Repubblica Sociale Italiana. And Regno del Sud is indeed my puppet. So we're going to give them all the territory. This is pretty nice. Although I think we were probably using some of the Italian factories for our guns. Yeah, so it is kind of unfortunate that we're now missing out on some of the Italian factories, but it's okay. We would like to reduce the autonomy on our little puppet Italy. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to spam buildings in them. Because when you build buildings in your puppet, they lose autonomy. I'm also going to force them to give me their units so that way they can't get participation in the war. You can always request forces from your puppets, like so. And now they're my forces. And I'll just make them into their own general. So I'm going to go like this, attach them to a general. Then we can assign Percival John Montague. Here, that sounds good. They're just gonna fill up the front. I don't know what these units are. I didn't make them. I don't know what they are, what they do. They're just gonna be there to maybe fill up the front. That sounds good. And now we're heading to the German border, and I do fear the Germans. I really do. I am not sure that we can reasonably expect to push through the mountains of Austria into Germany. Looks like Germany is doing okay against Soviet Union, so we might at least distract the Germans enough that they're going to lose to the Soviets. Look at this. This is going to be another huge just slaughter of troops. Oh my goodness, how many was that? 127,000? Not quite as many as last time, but still a lot. There we go, going to get more kills here in Palermo. This should cause the Italians to capitulate once we take this, by the way. I'm pretty sure it's their last victory point. Yeah, okay, yeah, they did, yeah. Greece got their land back, Yugoslavia got their land back. Perfect. So now the whole army can focus on the fronts over here. I'm not gonna... well, this front I have some guys there, that's okay, but I want to focus on this front over here, on the German front. Let's actually destroy all the orders, make a new front right, like... thinking like right here, to be honest. Just everyone go like right in that little pocket, and let's get to Berlin. Maybe this isn't a wise place. Maybe we should push here instead. You know, that's probably smarter. Let's go and push up here instead. This will be a better line to push through. It looks like the Soviets are maybe pushing back a little bit, but at the same time, it's hard to tell. How much intel do we have on the Germans? Let's see, they've got about 2 million deployed manpower. That's crazy. We got about 1 million in the reserves. They're definitely nowhere near like falling apart. I kind of don't want my men to be stuck taking attrition in Yugoslavia. So you know what we're gonna do? We're gonna shrink this front. We're just gonna say, sorry Yugoslavia, you're not worth our time. We're gonna shrink it to just the Hungary and the German section of the front. That way we can kind of push with a little more force in one direction rather than spreading ourselves out like that. There's just not a lot of supply down there compared to here in Vienna where there's lots of supply. Pushing into Hungary, it would be quite nice to capitulate Hungary because I believe Hungary probably is contributing a lot of airplanes to the fight, and if we can capitulate them, they lose all that. So I'm hoping we can capitulate them and then get their airplanes out of the game. Free France is making some big moves here. I think we're going to reach Berlin before the Soviets do. I think that the Soviets kind of look like they're not doing so well, to be honest. They're holding on, but they're not really pushing. Whereas we're making pretty steady progress towards the Berlin. Although marching up through Prague is unwise because there's a ton of forts here. So this feels a little bit stupid to be doing this by going through the Czech Republic when there's just tons of forts here, but it is what it is. Anyway, despite the forts, we're pushing pretty well through the Czech Republic, which I like to see. We're almost through to Budapest as well. Oh, the Dutch East Indies capitulated. Japan is having a hell of a game. I don't know if I can do anything about this, to be honest. I might eventually try to see if I can land in Japan, but also it's pretty common to, once you capitulate Germany, to just kind of accept that the game is over, because nobody wants to put up with naval mechanics. So yeah, I doubt that we're going to try to actually capitulate Japan. I'll see if I want to, though, once we capitulate Germany. We have actual aero supremacy. Oh, actually, well, seems like the Allies are giving us some planes, but not a whole lot. Are we getting, like, destroyed by planes here? Or looks like not really. They just have fighters. Interesting. So, this is interesting. They have fighters, and fighters give you supremacy, but that's all they give you, to my understanding. If you don't put any close air support or bombers, then all you're doing is, like, controlling the skies without doing anything with it. I guess it means that our bombers can't do anything, but what's really even the point of just having 1,400 fighters that just sit there and shoot enemy planes without actually helping the ground war? I don't know. Interesting choice, is all I'll say about it. We're almost into Budapest, by the way. About to enter Prague. What's the war support on the Rex Commissariat? 100%? Okay, I was gonna say maybe they'll capitulate, but they have lots of war support. By the way, war support is directly tied into how long it takes for you to capitulate. Below 50% war support, you begin to capitulate way faster. So that's why I was checking, because that number directly corresponds to it. Oh, I think they just capitulated. I think that's why we just gained this land. We're probably going to lose it immediately because we can't really protect it, but France has almost reclaimed Paris. It's nice to see. The bigger the front gets over in France, the better it is for me, only because it just takes troops away from my front, right? How's my war participation, by the way? Am I getting more from doing all this? Hopefully. We're at 7% now. Still more than the Americans. That's kind of all that I care about. I just want to be better than the Americans. It's a classic Canadianism. Well, there's Budapest. Nice. We love to see that. That's probably not going to capitulate them, because I imagine they have good war support. They sure do. In the meantime, we have now pushed through the forts into the other layer of forts that are in the Carpathian Mountains. These are not Carpathian Mountains. These are the... What would you call this mountain range? Are these the Czech Mountains? I don't know. The Sudetenland Mountains, I guess. But yeah, another mountain range that we would rather not be in. Regardless, we have we've cracked the Germans wide open here. Let's get an idea of their manpower number, if we can see. Still 1 million. Yeah, they still are absolutely ridiculous, but it's fine. And yeah, with the Italians, it seems like they're contributing enough to the war to outpace us building in their country to lower their autonomy. The one thing we can do to maybe lower their autonomy massively is we can give them a lend-lease of convoys. I know this, I think I saw this on an ISP video once, but basically you can just grant them a ton of convoys. We don't really have enough to just instantly drop their autonomy to like nothing. The idea is you send them a bunch of convoys like once, drops their autonomy massively, and then you can just, like, convoys aren't that valuable. If you're annexing them thanks to that, you can just get all the convoys back. But if you're not annexing them, then it's worth it to get the integrated puppet, right? And yeah, these forts are definitely a pain. But funnily enough, the flame tanks that we have are going to help with that. If we look at what the flame tanks give, you see that the flame tanks provide bonus damage in forts. Which of these is the fort? Here, so we get an extra 10% damage in forts thanks to the... oh, more than that, actually. 10% movement, 35% damage in the fort. Nice. That's all thanks to the flame tanks. Which makes sense. You just scorch the people out of the bunker. It's again why I love using the flame tanks. My imagination runs wild. I am not a insane person. I don't dream of the burning flesh of Nazis. I just enjoy war crimes, I guess. Once the Hungarians capitulate, that's going to be a lot of airplanes out of the sky, so we're almost there. It's going to help us a lot. The Germans definitely still have a very strong set of planes, but the Hungarians are giving a pretty large set of planes too, so it will be a big punishment to the Axis to lose the Hungarians. These forts are painful, though. If we look at what they actually do, I think... yeah, so is it listed here? In this case, the fort's not actually giving that much of a bonus, because the more angles you attack a fort from, the less bonus it gives. So here, we're only losing 3.5% of our damage to the fort. But I think, for example, at this fort, it's going to be way worse. 12%, yeah. And this is a level 7 fort, but it's been damaged to level 5, I think. I'm not going to lie. I don't know a lot about how the forts work. They just help reduce the damage. That's all I know, okay? But I know that if you attack them from more angles, they do less. That's one thing I know about. You can also damage them with airplanes, so you can bomb the fort, and that makes it less effective. I don't know if we actually have any bombers working. Okay, it looks like we have rested air superiority, and we do have bombers in the area. They're not mine, they're just the allies, so they're just doing whatever they're doing. They're probably bombing the forts, and that is what is helping us push through the forts so easily. Normally, these forts are quite unassailable. Kind of sucks that the UK is getting all the occupations here, because it does give them more of the war share, like the war support share, by doing that. I say war support share, I'm making up all kinds of terms. I mean the participation, what I meant by that. It gives them more participation, the fact that they get to do the occupations. I might want to shrink my front again. You know what we're going to do? Let's not waste our time like fighting through these forts in the Czech Republic. Let's shrink our front down to be like over here. And let's not bother pushing west when the French can handle that. Let's go like this. We'll go from Dortmund over to Carlsbad. We'll push like that. And let's stop the push briefly and build up our planning bonus. Then we'll continue to push once that's built up. I say let's get the planning bonus, but also, like, nah, just push. Just push. We don't need the planning bonus. I think I do the planning bonus because it feels optimal, but really, like, the optimal play here is to just push to victory. Like, we just need to keep pushing until we win. I wonder if I can ask the UK for control of a state. So you can tell that they're going to accept by looking at this check mark. They want to give me a lot of stuff. Okay. Big transfer. That should help with our war participation. Love to see that. I forgot that you can do that. You can just ask for control stuff. And look at all the factors you got out of that. Totally worthwhile. Actually missing flame tanks. That's insane. Just gonna keep on pushing. We're definitely running out of like supplies. Like you see here, we're totally out of guns. We're totally out of like everything. But with the allies to kind of keep us supported here, it shouldn't be too difficult to just kind of push through with what little we have left and reach Berlin and end the war. Although honestly, with Germany, reaching Berlin does not end the war. You have to go even further. You have to really take like all of their points in order to win. Also, they got. How did you let them get Paris back? Like, what are we doing here, France? Come on, look at all these guys just sitting here not fighting when they could be fighting. The Soviets are quickly descending upon Germany. By the way, I didn't even notice. I wasn't paying attention. I hope the Soviets don't beat us to Berlin. Hungary has capitulated. Okay, great. That gives us some guns, trucks. It's good. We're very close to Berlin now. Why don't you just move in there? The Canadians will raise the maple leaf over the Reichstag. There it is. That's beautiful. The Canadian Armored Division. 8th Canadian Armored Division. I'm trying to think if we should give it a name. Like, that'd be really appropriate. What do we want to name this thing? This is the tank that took Berlin. We'll call it, Tim Hortons. Tim Bits. That sounds good. If you're Canadian, you might get it. And now it's just a matter of getting places like Hamburg and Kiel, Rostock, Stettin, these kinds of cities that are still pretty valuable to them. But yeah, the Germans are totally falling apart here. How many casualties have we inflicted now? I've taken almost 1 million casualties, but I have dealt 390,000. The Germans have in fact inflicted slightly less. We are basically neck and neck in terms of casualties inflicted with the Germans. That's fine with me. The United States, though, has taken 870,000 German casualties. They've only dealt 300,000, so they're doing pretty poorly. They're most focusing on Japan, though, where they have... Wow, they have taken 1.1 million casualties to Japan, and they have only inflicted 250,000. Dude, like, they're playing like me right now, dude. They gotta up their game. The US is actually playing like me in terms of that casualty ratio. In case you don't know, the way that peace deals work in this game, all these countries that have this golden border, they are considered to be major powers. Once you capitulate every major power in one faction, that faction surrenders. So for example, we're going to capitulate the German Reich, and then that's going to also make independent Montenegro, who's for some reason still alive. They will also surrender despite having not capitulated. With Japan, we'll have to capitulate them, and everyone else capitulates. And for us, if I were to capitulate, America were to capitulate, the United Kingdom, and probably France, then we would lose the war. So that's kind of how it works. You have to get all the major powers to give up. This was the focus I was talking about, to try and get like a cheap tank way back in the very beginning of the video. And I just never did that plan because we ended up getting the tank normally. So who cares? We can work on the modern tank chassis, but I don't think we're going to end up upgrading our units before this war ends. So we're just doing it for the memes, I guess. Liberation of Paris, we already did that. We just did it again, I guess. It's a second liberation of Paris. I think they'll capitulate pretty dang soon, though. I think they're pretty much out of gas at this point. Maybe Lubeck and Rostock is what we need next. Maybe that's the last bits. Oh, that encirclement. Oh, there it is. Okay. Peace deal time. Alright. So first of all, we want to make sure that Italy, our subject, actually gets control of all of Italy. So I'm going to go over on the right side, and I'm going to find Italy in this list. Where are they? Regno del Sud. And we're going to grant them, obviously, all of their cores in it. So it's very cheap to do so because they're the cores of this country. And then from there, I want to probably do some puppeting. Or I guess not pupping, I guess I do. Or I do puppets. Okay. Let's puppet, like, let's try to get, like, control of the Austrian zone, I guess. There you go, I think that's pretty much it. So we're going to confirm an exit. Let's see how this looks. You guys ready for a cursed peace deal? Every peace deal in Hearts of Iron 4 is cursed, just so you know. It takes a long time to load. Okay, great. So, this is what the world... Okay, this is what we ended up with. This is the Soviet occupation zone. This is East Germany under the Soviets. The Soviets directly conquered Poland and Hungary. That's something. Soviet Czechoslovakia. So there's a Soviet occupation Czechoslovakia. This is the Canadian occupation zone of Germany. It's Austria plus a little piece of Bavaria. This is the American occupation zone. We have the British occupation zone. And the UK directly conquered Mosaland. Interesting choice. Beyond that, looks like we have a Soviet Bulgaria and a democratic Bulgaria. Yugoslavia stayed how it is. There's a Soviet Albania and a Romania. Dude, the Soviets got so much out of this. Soviet Iraq. The Socialist Republic of Kurdistan, also part of the Soviets. Okay. Soviets directly conquered Al-Hajra. Interesting choice. Canadian Italy. I gotta say, that's probably the best one. Canadian Italy. Tunisia. Just a free Tunisia. Just hanging out. Okay. And beyond that, Soviet Denmark. Okay, this is a world with a very powerful communist bloc, I gotta say. A little bit scary. And now all that's left is Japan. The question is, do I want to face off against Japan? And the answer to that is, I'm gonna check on the naval supremacy and see if I can get an easy landing. And if I can, then I'll maybe go for it. This does not look like it will be very easy at all. There's a lot of ships here. We could do an island hopping campaign and slowly move up, but I have my doubts of how feasible that is. What is this country? Greater Pohnpei Union State. A subject of the Soviet Union. Wow, okay. Alright then. What is this one? Saipan. Mariana Federation. What are these countries? Yeah, I don't really want to put up with Japan. As is the tradition for Hearts of Iron 4 players, I will not be bothering to defeat Japan. Instead, I will be reveling in the power of Canadian Italy. This is Canada. Did we carry the war? That's a hard thing to determine. Is the war something which was won specifically because of what we did? I would say no. However, what I will say is that if not for our participation, the Soviets would have won way harder, and maybe the Allies would have completely lost all of Europe to the Soviets. In the sense that because of us, we did manage to take over Italy. That was absolutely thanks to me that we won Italy. The Germans was kind of a team effort, but without my effort to get us through Italy into Germany, I think that the Soviets would have been the ones to reach Berlin first. Now, despite us reaching Berlin first, the Soviets still took Berlin, and that's unfortunate. That's because I think the AI tends to want to create the historical occupation zones when they can. Regardless, I'm proud of how I did here. Well, I say that, I made a lot of really dumb mistakes and played very poorly, but we got Canadian Italy out of it. Love to see that. We're a free nation, we're not a dominion, we're our own people. That is wonderful. We should just scrape the barrel or something, that'd be funny, but we're not going to do that. I think we call it here. I'm not sure what the goal of this run was. I just wanted to play some Hoi 4. I think the goal was to maybe like GIGACHAD over the Axis, and then we kind of just floundered, but then eventually turned it around. Regardless, I hope you enjoyed watching. I appreciate your time, and I want to say thank you for your time.